The transmission alarm jolted Hudson Zimmerman from his sleep, a piercing reminder that his solitary reconnaissance mission on Proxima Centauri b had just become complicated. He rolled out of his cot, wincing as the movement pulled at the burn scars across his chest and back, souvenirs from a reactor fire that had nearly killed him 3 years ago on Mars. Unidentified vessel approaching. Classification unknown. ETA 5 minutes, the ship's AI announced. "Show me," Hudson muttered, pulling on his standard-issue jumpsuit and making his way to the command center of his small research outpost. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a sleek, iridescent craft unlike any human design he'd ever seen. Its hull seemed to shift colors as it moved, adapting to the backdrop of space like a cosmic chameleon. "Well," Hudson whispered to himself, "I guess First Contact isn't going to wait for Mission Control's approval." He activated the outpost's communication array, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Hudson Zimmerman of Earth Science Outpost Proxima 1. Please identify yourself." For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, a series of musical tones emanated from the speakers, followed by words in halting, synthesized English. "Greetings, Earth being. We are Keltarians. We detect life signs. Request permission to meet." Hudson's heart hammered in his chest. He was a geologist, not a diplomat. His mission was supposed to be simple: collect soil and atmospheric samples, analyze them, and report back to Earth. First Contact was definitely outside his job description, but he was also the only human within 4 light years of Earth. "Permission granted," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'll meet you at the landing pad." He quickly sent an emergency update to Earth, a message that wouldn't arrive for over 4 years, and grabbed his environment suit. The atmosphere of Proxima Centauri b was technically breathable for short periods, but protocol demanded protection for outdoor excursions. As Hudson stepped outside, the alien vessel was already touching down, its hull now a deep azure that matched the planet's copper-rich soil. The landing was silent, no rocket thrusters or visible propulsion system, as if the craft simply decided that it would now rest on solid ground. A seam appeared in the smooth exterior, widening into an oval doorway. 3 figures emerged, each about 7 feet tall with slender, almost fragile-looking limbs. Their skin, if it could be called that, shimmered like polished opal, with swirls of color that seemed to pulse with each movement. Their heads were elongated, with no visible nose, but large, almond-shaped eyes that reflected light like mirrors. Hudson stepped forward, removing his helmet in what he hoped would be seen as a gesture of trust. "Welcome to Proxima Centauri b," he said, extending his hand before realizing the gesture might be meaningless to them. The tallest of the 3 aliens approached, its movements fluid and graceful. It raised an appendage that split into several slender digits, mimicking Hudson's outstretched hand but not touching him. "We are pleased to encounter you," it said, the words coming from a small device at what might be its throat. "I am Meridoc, explorer of the Keltarian Collective. Hudson Zimmerman, geologist from Earth." Meridoc's head tilted, those mirror-like eyes reflecting Hudson's image back at him. "You are damaged." The translator device made the question sound flat, but Hudson sensed genuine concern. "Damaged? I don't understand." Meridoc gestured to Hudson's neck, where the top of his burn scars were visible above his collar. "Your outer layer. It is not uniform. It shows signs of breaking." Hudson instinctively touched the raised, discolored skin. "Oh, these are scars. Old injuries that have healed." The 3 aliens conferred among themselves in their musical language before Meridoc spoke again. "May we see more? We have not encountered beings with such markers." It was an odd request, but Hudson reminded himself that he was representing humanity in this historic moment. "Sure," he said, unzipping his jumpsuit partway to reveal the extensive scarring that covered much of his upper torso, a web of shiny, reddened skin that contrasted sharply with his natural tone. All 3 aliens stepped back, their skin colors shifting to deep purples and blues. Hudson couldn't read their expressions, but their body language suggested shock or possibly revulsion. "You survive with such extensive damage?" Meridoc asked, the translator unable to mask the incredulity in the alien's tone. "It's not damage," Not anymore, Hudson explained, zipping his suit back up. It's just how human skin heals after severe burns. It happened years ago. Come, Meridoc said suddenly. We wish to show you our vessel. 2. Exchange knowledge. Hudson hesitated. Protocol dictated extreme caution, but this was literally a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'd be honored, he replied. The interior of the Keltarian ship was as smooth and seamless as its exterior, with walls that seemed to glow from within, providing a soft, ambient light. There were no sharp edges or corners, just flowing curves that created spaces without clearly defined boundaries. Our species has traveled among stars for 7,000 of your Earth years, Meridoc explained as they moved through the vessel. We seek knowledge, understanding of life's many forms. That's similar to our mission, Hudson said. Though we've only just begun reaching beyond our own solar system. They entered a chamber where the walls displayed what appeared to be biological scans of various life forms, some recognizable to Hudson, others completely alien. Meridoc guided him to a circular platform. May we study you? No harm will come. Hudson nodded, and immediately felt a tingling sensation as light enveloped him. A three-dimensional image of his body appeared on one wall, rotating slowly, with his scars highlighted in a pulsing red color. The three Keltarians studied the image, their skin shifting through spectrums of color as they communicated among themselves. Finally, Meridoc turned to Hudson. Your species carries permanent marks of past harm. This is distressing. Does it not diminish you? Hudson considered the question carefully. Our scars are part of our history. They tell a story, not a tragedy. Meridoc's head tilted again. Explain. Each scar is a reminder of something we survived, Hudson said, touching his chest. These burns happened when I saved 3 crew members from a reactor fire on Mars. I could have died, but I didn't. The scars remind me of that strength. Your species values these imperfections. Some of us do. Some try to remove them with medical procedures. But many of us see them as part of who we are, marks of our journey through life. The aliens conferred again, their colors shifting more rapidly now. When Meridoc spoke again, there was a new quality to its voice that the translator couldn't quite capture, something like wonder. Keltarians heal without trace. Our bodies regenerate perfectly. We have no physical memory of pain. That sounds wonderful, Hudson admitted. Perhaps, Meridoc replied. But we have wondered why some species seem to possess greater resilience to adversity. Perhaps these physical reminders serve a purpose we had not considered. Over the next several hours, Hudson and the Keltarians exchanged information about their respective species. The aliens were fascinated by human physiology, particularly the concept of scarring, while Hudson was amazed by Keltarian technology and their understanding of interstellar travel. Meridoc explained that their species communicated not just through sounds, but through the color patterns that flowed across their skin, a complex language of hues and intensities that supplemented their verbal exchanges. It is why we find your scars so intriguing, Meridoc said. They are like permanent colors on your skin, but they do not change with your thoughts. They change over time, Hudson explained. They fade, become less noticeable. Some people's scars almost disappear, while others remain visible for life. As day turned to night on Proxima Centauri b, the Keltarians invited Hudson to share a meal with them, a peculiar experience involving nutrients absorbed through their skin rather than ingested. Tomorrow, Meridoc said as they returned Hudson to his outpost, we would like to show you more of our vessel. And perhaps meet more humans. Hudson smiled. I'm afraid I'm the only human here. The nearest others are 4 light years away, on Earth. Meridoc's skin rippled with what Hudson was beginning to recognize as surprise. You are alone here? For what purpose? To study this planet. To prepare for possible future colonization. This solitude, it would be considered a hardship among Keltarians. We are never without our collective. Humans often work alone, Hudson explained. Though I admit, the isolation can be challenging. That night, Hudson struggled to sleep, his mind racing with all he'd learned. The Keltarians represented a technological advancement far beyond humanity's current capabilities, yet they seemed genuinely curious about human resilience and adaptability. In the morning, as promised, the aliens returned. This time, Meridoc brought what appeared to be a small container. "We have prepared something for you," the alien said. "A gift, in your terms." Inside the container was a bracelet made of a material Hudson couldn't identify, something between metal and living tissue, warm to the touch and slightly pulsating. "This communicator will allow us to contact you from great distances," Meridoc explained. "We wish to continue our exchange of knowledge." Hudson slipped the bracelet onto his wrist, feeling it adjust perfectly to his size. "Thank you. I'm honored. We have also transmitted information about our species to your data systems, as you requested. Our history, biology, technology within the limits of what we can share with a developing civilization." "Developing?" Hudson raised an eyebrow. Meridoc's skin shifted to a gentle blue. "No offense is intended. All species develop at their own pace. The knowledge we've shared should accelerate your understanding of interstellar physics significantly." For the next week, Hudson spent his days with the Keltarians, learning about their society and sharing what he could about humanity. He showed them Earth's literature, music, and art through his Outposts database, and they showed him star maps of systems humans had not yet discovered. On the 8th day, as Hudson was explaining the concept of human families, Meridoc interrupted with an unexpected question. "The marks on your body, would you remove them if you could?" Hudson considered this. "Honestly, no. They're part of who I am now. Even though they cause others to react with concern, even though they mark you as different." "Especially because of that," Hudson replied. "They're a reminder that I survived something that could have killed me, that I was willing to risk my life to save others." Meridoc was silent for a moment, its skin cycling through deep violets and blues. "We have the technology to remove these marks completely, to make your skin as it was before the damage. Would you accept such a gift?" The offer caught Hudson off guard. "You could do that? Easily. Our cellular regeneration technology could restore your skin to its original state within hours." Hudson touched his scars through his jumpsuit, feeling the familiar ridges and textures that had been part of him for years. "I appreciate the offer, truly, but I think I'll keep them." Meridoc's skin pulsed with rapid color changes that the translator couldn't interpret. "May I ask why?" "Our analysis indicates that human aesthetics generally prefer unmarked skin." "That's true for many," Hudson acknowledged. "But these scars are more than just marks on my skin. They're reminders of a moment when I discovered what I'm capable of, what matters to me. Removing them would feel like erasing part of my history." The alien moved closer, those mirror-like eyes studying Hudson intently. "Your species finds meaning in pain. This is difficult for us to comprehend." "Not in the pain itself," Hudson clarified. "In overcoming it. In surviving it. The pain is just part of the journey." That evening, as they watched the dual sunset of Proxima Centauri be the red dwarf star, creating spectacular bands of crimson and orange across the horizon, Meridoc revealed something unexpected. "Our species once had greater diversity," the alien said, its voice unusually somber. "Long ago, some Keltarians were born with patterns that did not change, permanent colors and markings similar to your scars." "What happened to them?" Hudson asked. "We corrected this. For thousands of years, we have used genetic modification to ensure all Keltarians are born with perfect chromatic control. We believed uniformity was strength." Hudson sensed where this was going. "But now you're not so sure? Your species embraces diversity, imperfection, marks of past trauma. And yet you have achieved space travel, created art, built civilizations. Perhaps our pursuit of perfection has limited us in ways we did not recognize." On the final day of the Keltarians' visit, Meridoc presented Hudson with another gift, a small, crystalline orb that projected a three-dimensional image of Earth when activated. "To remind you of home," the alien explained, "and to remind us of the species that taught us to see beauty in imperfection." As the Keltarian ship prepared for departure, Hudson stood at a safe distance, watching the hull cycle through colors before settling on a brilliant gold that reflected the morning sunlight. "We will return," Meridoc promised through the communication bracelet. "Perhaps next time, we will bring representatives to meet your leaders on Earth." "They'd be honored," Hudson replied, "and probably a lot more prepared than I was." "You were perfect in your imperfection," Meridoc said, the translator struggling to convey the complex emotions behind the words. Your scars told us more about humanity than any perfect specimen could have. The ship rose silently into the sky, becoming a speck and then vanishing entirely as it accelerated beyond the planet's atmosphere. Hudson was alone again, but the encounter had changed him profoundly. That night, he recorded his full report for Earth, knowing it would be years before anyone heard it. He described the Keltarians in detail, explained their technology as best he could understand it, and emphasized their peaceful intentions. But most importantly, he tried to convey the unexpected philosophical exchange that had occurred, how his scars, long a source of self-consciousness despite his claims otherwise, had become a bridge of understanding between two vastly different species. 6 months later, Hudson's solitary research mission was interrupted by the unexpected return of the Keltarian vessel. This time, when Meridoc emerged, the alien was not alone. Behind it came a dozen other Keltarians, each bearing distinct patterns on their skin that did not shift or change like Meridoc's. "We have brought others who wish to meet you," Meridoc explained. "These are the first generation in 7,000 years to be born with permanent patterns." Hudson was stunned. "You've changed your genetic engineering practices?" "We have allowed choice," Meridoc clarified. "Some parents now choose to let their children develop naturally, without chromatic uniformity." One of the younger Keltarians stepped forward, its skin bearing spiral patterns of deep indigo that remained constant while the rest of its skin shifted colors. "I am Telleris," it said through its own translator, "the first of the new pattern bearers. Your story inspired many among our people to reconsider our definitions of perfection and beauty." Over the next few days, Hudson learned that his encounter with the Keltarians had sparked a philosophical revolution within their society. The concept that scars and permanent markings could carry meaning, could tell a story rather than represent a tragedy, had challenged thousands of years of cultural uniformity. Not all welcomed this change, Meridoc admitted as they walked along the ridge overlooking the outpost. "Many fear that embracing imperfection will weaken us, make us vulnerable. Change is always frightening," Hudson said, "but diversity often brings strength. Different perspectives, different experiences, they help species adapt and evolve." On the third day of their visit, Telleris approached Hudson with a request. "Would you show us your scars again, and tell us the full story of how you received them?" Hudson hesitated only briefly before removing his jumpsuit top, revealing the extensive burn scars that covered much of his chest, back, and arms. The young Keltarians gathered around, their mirror eyes reflecting his damaged skin. "3 years ago, I was stationed on a research base on Mars," Hudson began, pointing to a particularly severe patch of scarring near his shoulder. "There was an accident in the main reactor. 3 of my colleagues were trapped in the control room when the fire broke out." He described rushing into the flames, how the emergency fire suppression system had malfunctioned, forcing him to drag each person out individually through superheated air that burned his lungs with each breath. "The third time I went in, the heat had become so intense that my protective suit began to melt." He continued, tracing the worst of the burn patterns. "I could feel my skin burning, but I couldn't leave my friend behind." The Keltarians remained silent, their permanent patterns contrasting with the rapid color changes in the rest of their skin, what Hudson now recognized as intense emotion. "When I woke up in the medical bay 3 days later, they told me I'd barely survived. The doctor said I could have skin grafts, treatments to reduce the scarring, but I declined. Every time I look at these scars, I remember not just the pain, but what I was willing to endure for the people I cared about." Telleris reached out tentatively, pausing just above Hudson's scarred skin. "May I?" Hudson nodded, and the young Keltarian gently touched the rough texture of the healed burns. "It feels like living history," Telleris said softly. "That's exactly what it is," Hudson replied. Before departing again, Meridoc revealed their true purpose in returning. "We have brought technology to establish a permanent communication link between our worlds," the alien explained. "No more 4-year delays in messages. When your people are ready, we will open direct diplomatic relations." "That's incredible," Hudson said, genuinely amazed. "This will change everything for humanity." "And you, Hudson Zimmerman," Meridoc said, "will be remembered as the one who brought our species together." the human whose scars taught us to see beyond our definition of perfection. As the Keltarian ship departed once more, Hudson realized that his solitary mission on Proxima Centauri b had become something far greater than he could have imagined. His scars, once a painful reminder of trauma, had become the unexpected key to humanity's first successful alien alliance. When relief ships from Earth finally arrived a year later, they brought news that Hudson's initial reports had caused a sensation back home. The promise of contact with an advanced alien civilization had united nations and accelerated Earth's space programs dramatically. Dr. Elena Cortez, the mission commander, greeted Hudson with a mix of awe and professional curiosity. "Your reports changed everything," she told him as her team established a larger, permanent base. Though many scientists were skeptical about the Keltarians' interest in human scarring, it seemed almost too coincidental. Hudson smiled, running his fingers over the now familiar ridges of his burned scars. Sometimes the things that make us different are exactly what others need to see. In the years that followed, Hudson became Earth's primary liaison with the Keltarian collective. The cultural exchange blossomed into a technological partnership that transformed human understanding of space travel, medicine, and energy production. And throughout it all, whenever new Keltarian representatives arrived, they always asked to see his scars, to touch them, to hear again the story of how he'd earned them. What had once been a source of self-consciousness became his most valuable diplomatic tool. On the 10th anniversary of First Contact, Hudson stood beside Meridoc, now the Keltarian ambassador to Earth, as they inaugurated the first joint human-Keltarian space station in orbit around Jupiter. Representatives from both species gathered for the historic occasion, including many young Keltarians bearing permanent patterns that had become a symbol of their cultural renaissance. "Did you ever imagine," Meridoc asked privately as they watched the celebration, "that your damaged skin would change the course of two civilizations?" Hudson laughed. "Never. I was just a geologist doing his job. Your scars told us something essential about humanity that we needed to remember about ourselves," Meridoc replied, its skin glowing with warm amber tones. "That perfection is not the absence of marks, but the stories those marks can tell." Later that evening, a young Keltarian approached Hudson, its skin bearing intricate permanent patterns that formed images rather than abstract shapes, a new development in their cultural movement. "I chose these patterns to honor my survival of a solar storm that damaged our vessel," the young alien explained, displaying markings that mimicked the radiation burns it had suffered. "Like you, I wanted my body to tell my story." Hudson felt a profound sense of completion as he looked around the gathering humans and Keltarians mingling together, sharing stories, finding common ground despite their differences. What had begun with his scarred body had evolved into something far greater than he could have imagined. "They tell a story, not a tragedy," he murmured to himself, repeating the words that had bridged two worlds. Meridoc, overhearing him, responded with a phrase that had become common among the new pattern Keltarians. "And in our stories, we find each other." Hudson smiled. Touching the communication bracelet, he still wore the first gift from a species that had once believed perfection meant uniformity. His scars had taught them otherwise, just as their technology had shown humanity new possibilities among the stars. Together, they watched as Jupiter rose over the edge of the space station's observation deck, its swirling storms a reminder that even the universe's most magnificent creations were marked by turbulence and change, and were all the more beautiful for it.